You're tuned to Evergreen Media Network. I am Cindy Schwartz, and this is the Patient Partner Show. My co-host is Jeannie Roller. We are also a podcast on Spreaker, so look us up. Distributed on so many platforms on Spreaker. Today, Jeannie, this is an unbelievable concept. Maybe not unbelievable. I don't know, but it's called Never Events. And our friend Helen French, who is a retired RN, Helen French has been on the podcast before quite a while ago, and Helen is actually the one that told me about the original application of basically, I don't want to say anyone that they could grab off the sidewalk, but when surgery techs became a part of the surgery community working in the OR, they didn't have anyone to apply for the jobs. There really wasn't a training schedule. And Helen French was the one that told me that they were hiring people that were in the custodian section of the facilities and those kind of things, room cleanup, things like that, that became some of, in her experience in her facility, I believe it was in Virginia, but don't quote me. Those were the first surgery techs. So people that were not necessarily trained, but trained kind of on the job, if you will. So Helen French sent this interesting article, Jeannie, and it's called Never Events. So go ahead and explain what that is. I mean, I was fascinated when I read that.
Well, it's from the Department of Health and Human Services, from their website, and it is called Never Events, and it was 2019. Some of the never events are classified under surgical or procedure events, product or device events, patient protection events, care management events, environmental events, radiology events, and criminal events. I'm with Helen. Most of these it should never happen.
Mm-hmm.
It is like a surgical event is something like performing a procedure on the wrong part of the body.
Right.
So, or retention of a foreign object in the patient, like a sponge. That stuff should never be happening because they're supposed to count, recount, and verify. Product or device events, it can be like a contaminated device, contaminated drug, a device or something. Or it could be an injury or death from the use or function of a device, or the device is used for other functions other than what it was made for. Patient protection events is like discharging a patient who is not able to make their own decisions to someone like a guardian or an authorized person. Patient suicide or self-inflicted harm while being cared for in a healthcare facility. Care management events are death or serious injury from a medication error, which, by the way, I think is the top event in hospital systems.
Mm-hmm.
Any stage 3, stage 4 pressure ulcers acquired after they have been admitted to the hospital. Environmental events would be like a serious disability or death associated with electric shock in the course of the healthcare setting. Radiology would be introduction of a metallic object into the MRI area that could cause serious death or injury. It could cause serious injury or death.
Right. Yeah.
Criminal events is someone who imitates a doctor and nurse, pharmacist, abduction of a patient, sexual abuse, assault on a patient, in the healthcare setting. So, I mean, there are a lot of things.
Yeah.
Now, you and I, we mostly talk about the sexual abuse, assault on patients within the grounds of a healthcare setting,
Mm-hmm.
because, and I will say it again, that anytime unnecessary genital exposure occurs, that is sexual abuse.
Right. Genital exposure. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely.
it is sexual abuse.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of this should not be happening at all, because they're supposed to have checklists. They're supposed to have multiple people check. So a lot of this stuff happening, you have to wonder why it is happening. Um, it just keeps going on and on and on. And as I say, I think medication errors is the number one never event in most hospital systems. And supposedly they have, barcodes and computerized lists and so on and so forth. So the patient is supposed to be guaranteed just about to get the correct medicine. So what is happening? I know we learned in the Redonda case that sometimes they ignore the protocols put into place to prevent that from happening. So, it keeps going on and on and on.
Yeah.
And going in the vein of we was talking, if you have people who aren't educated enough, who do not have enough training, then yes, these events will happen more and more, because they really shouldn't be in that setting.
Right. Yeah. You know what I found too in a lot of the appointments that I go to and the surgeries that I've had is it doesn't seem in many instances that it's as serious of an atmosphere as what it used to be, or in my opinion, what it should be. A lot of it is more, in my opinion, lackadaisical. It's like they're not focused on, is it tiredness? Is it overworked? Is it too many patients? What is it? Again, these are our opinions. We're not doctors. We're not medical people. We're not lawyers, any of that stuff. But just when you witness it your own self in a surgery setting or even an appointment setting, it just, to me, it's, call me old, whatever. It just does not seem to be as focused. It's more of a drive-through kind of an atmosphere, if you will, thing in so many of these instances. And I agree with you, Jeannie. I saw that in my own. I know you have, that the paperwork, if you go to get copies of your medical records, you will see page upon page upon page, if you've had a serious surgery and maybe not so serious, of checklists of what the people in the ORs are doing. How does this happen? I mean, in my records, there's pages, literally pages and pages of checklists. And I'm like, in my own instance, they just disregarded what it was that I was allergic to and gave it to me anyway.
Right.
And it was written there.
And
it was written there. I don't get it.
Yeah. Well, a lot of times, with the automation, they don't pay any attention. They just go through and do it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Sometimes they just vomit up a phrase that was used in a previous patient's case, and they just ignore things. What is interesting, Cindy, is in this article, it says since 2007, Medicare said they wouldn't pay for what they call preventable errors.
Right.
If it was. So you've got to wonder how many of these errors are actually happening, that they are disguising or omitting that it happened.
Or readdress, or, relabeling or something. Yeah. I don't know. Again, it's it's our opinion. That's why, Jeannie, when you and I, we have like 45 seconds left, you and I first started this, one of our main goals, and it still is to be able to have someone that we hire that's an outside employee of whatever facility that you go to for your serious surgery, that's on our side, that actually knows. It's like a triple check kind of a thing. If these things are happening for just routinely, blah, 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 and the checks and balances in place in that particular facility aren't really working, then we literally don't have any leg to stand on as the patient. So we want to bring in our own person to check for us, our paid, I don't want to use the word advocate, but somebody that's on our side. On that note, stay listening to Evergreen Media Network.